Imagine two guys having a duel. One has a pistol and the other guy has a knife. Who's gonna win? You might think the gunner, but he misses and the knife guy comes in and stabs him. Upsets like these happen, so today I'm talking about battles and histories that have them. The Battle of Haifa. In the year 1918, the British Empire successfully liberated Afula and Nazareth. With the forced retreat of the Ottoman Empire, the Allied forces have eyes on Haifa. Guys, capturing the city is very important. Can anyone tell me why? Because it's near water, we can get supplies. Yeah. Guys, look, it's paper. No, our intel shows that Haifa has been evacuated. Let's just go and capture it. Unfortunately, the intel given was false. As the men approached Haifa territory, they were suddenly bombarded with Ottoman artillery and machine gun fire. So they tried again with armored cars, only to be stopped again by machine guns. Few military officers was like, this isn't working. But eventually, they found a plan. A small cavalry group was advancing west of Haifa and encountered a group of Ottomans. They won the skirmish, losing 30 men and taking 300 prisoners. With that amount of success, they ordered the cavalry to capture Haifa. On one side, you have the Ottoman Turks, with cannons and machine guns. On the other, you have the British. More like British Indians with horses and lances. And so, they rode to battle. The cavalry charged the squad of light field guns on the slope of Mount Carmel. Meanwhile, the other lancers charged into the Ottoman forces. After securing Mount Carmel, the cavalry charged into town. The battle resulted in a mass surrender of the Turks and Germans. While 8 Indian soldiers were killed in action, 34 were wounded. 1,350 Turks and Germans were taken prisoner. The Battle of Singapore. In 1942, the Japanese Empire captured the Malayan Peninsula and is looking to capture more. After the British lost to the Japanese with bikes earlier, they retreated back to the last Allied stronghold, Singapore. Once the last retreating forces entered Singapore, they blew up the causeway, but that didn't stop the Japanese. They started bombing and shelling Australian defense posts, cutting communication lines and isolating groups. Shortly after, the first wave of troops entered the beach. Australian machine gunners opened fire on the attackers, but they just kept coming. They had better numbers, better equipment, and better strategy. The Japanese exploited several gaps in the line of defense, going through small rivers, streams, and creeks. By midnight, the 2 Australian brigades involved in the defense had lost communications with each other, causing confusion between them. One brigade was poised to keep fighting, while the other brigade was like, well, they're probably dead. Let's retreat. When the fight was over, the Australians were overrun. The Japanese moved towards Kranji and later Bukit Timah, which had most of the island's food and fuel supply. The Allied forces began to decay. The water system broke, supply was uncertain, and rations were running low. As the Japanese were closing into the main city, the commanders have 2 options: counterattack Bukit Timah to regain supplies, or surrender. Of the 36,000 troop invasions from the Japanese, 85,000 Allied troops, consisting of British, Indian, Malay, and Australians, surrendered, making it the worst defeat in British history. The Battle of Isla del Wanda. On December 11, 1878, the British Empire is planning to invade the Zulu Kingdom. A guy named Frere sent an ultimatum to Zulu King Setsueo, basically saying, discontinue your military or else. The king, not wanting to comply, chose else and gathered 20,000 men to defend against the British invasion. The British was like, 20,000 men with spears and leather? They're no match with guns and artillery. The commander gathered 1,800 men with rifles, few horses, and 2 field guns. What happened next was something the British didn't expect. The Zulus completely outmaneuvered and outnumbered the British. By the end of the battle, the British had lost around 1,300, while the Zulus only lost around 1,000. The Battle of Myeongnyang. It's 1597 and the Japanese are invading Korea. After a terrible defeat prior, the Korean admiral has a desperate idea. Guys, we're going to die. There's only one thing we can do. We lure them into the strait and hope for the best. Most soldiers were ready to fight till the very end, while the other soldiers were hoping that their death was quick and painless. Despite being outnumbered 13 ships to 130, the Koreans were optimistic. The Koreans set sail on the northern end of the strait and waited. When the Japanese arrived, the strong currents of the strait prevent them from entering, forcing them to attack in smaller groups. Once the tide shifted, the Japanese would drift and collide with each other, making them an easy target. What happened next was one of the most calculated battles ever. In the end, Korea won the battle. Japan lost 31 ships, while Korea lost 0. The Battle of Longewala. In 1971, India and Pakistan were at war. The Pakistani army is attacking the border town of Longewala. As the invading army approaches, the Indian commanding officer has 2 choices: defend as long as possible until help arrives, or flee. Choosing the former over the latter, The few soldiers were skeptical at first, but believed in the commander's decision. At night, Pakistan went on the offensive, killing 5 camels with artillery, before directing a full-force attack with 45 tanks. As the tanks were on the doorstep, they suddenly got stuck on the soft sand, becoming an easy target for the Indian defense. The Pakistani went to plan B, going off-road and surround the post, but once again the vehicles were stuck on the soft sand. While this was happening, the Indians continued to direct artillery fire. Frustrated, the Pakistani army was forced to continue the assault during the day. Unfortunately for them, the Indians bought just enough time for air support to arrive. What happened next was a very one-sided battle. In the end, the Pakistani army was forced to retreat. India lost 2 men, while Pakistan lost 36 tanks and 200 men. The Battle of Aljubarrota. In the year that the plague was going viral, the Kingdom of Portugal is fighting the crown of Castile. The Portuguese king died with no son to inherit the throne. But before he died, he signed a paper that would make the King of Castile marry her daughter and inherit everything. This pissed everyone off, including a guy named John, who will do whatever it takes to secure the crown for someone better, like himself. The council declared him King of Portugal and took over territories who supported the Castile. Juan didn't like where this was going and was like, go invade them. So he gathered 31,000 men and marched towards Lisbon. But this guy was like, how about we fight here so it's easier for both of us? And they agreed. As the battle began, the Portuguese defense was pretty good. So much so, they forced Castile to flank in the rear. This would make things difficult as they are now forced to fight in a tight area. Because of this, the Castile was unable to break through the defense and lost the battle. Castile lost 5,000 out of the 31,000 and Portugal less than 1,000 out of 6,600. The Battle of Agincourt. A long time ago, the French and the English are fighting to determine who owns what. In the ensuing campaign, many soldiers died from disease, and the English numbers fell. They tried to withdraw to English-held Colossus, but found their path blocked by a larger French army. Despite the numerical disadvantage, King Henry has a plan. Archers, you guys go here, while the others, we hold them off in the mud fields. Once you guys have a clear shot, you strike. As the French stormed the front, they were stuck on the mud. Archers flanked behind them and fired point blank. Once they run out of arrows, they attack melee range. The narrow and muddy terrain favored the English, plus the French were being crushed by their own men. The French second line also joined the attack, but they too were swallowed up. What happened next was a catastrophic defeat for the French. Out of the 15,000 French army, 6,000 lay dead. For the 8,000 English, only 600 were lost. The Battle of Brownstown. In the War of 1812, the United States fought the British. Working with the British was the Native Americans. On August 5th, Major Thomas Van Horn and 200 soldiers were en route to pick up supplies. When they arrived, they were spotted by Native Americans. Van Horn ordered a tactical retreat, but this caused the group to scatter in panic. Although United States forces outnumbered the Native Americans 200 to 25, they lost the battle and suffered substantial losses. 18 were killed, 12 were wounded, and 70 missing. The Native Americans lost 1. Tune in next time where I either explore the Battle of Midway, fighter pilots who are built different, or something else.